So last week we were talking about blended whiskey. This week we're talking about your blended whiskey. Welcome back, Dram Fam, to the Whisky Diary. So I'd never heard of an infinity bottle until a friend of mine, actually, in one of my group chats, said that they'd started it and they posted a bottle of theirs. Now I'm going to preface this whole video with one thing. This is all a bit of fun. There may be ways of doing better than others, which hopefully I'm going to share with you today. But overall, there is no right or wrong way to do it. This is something that's personal to you and the way that you like it, as with all things in whiskey. So think of this as somewhat of more of like a guide, and for you to riff on yourself, then this is the only way to do it and there is no other way. So with all that said, let's get into it. What is an infinity bottle? This is an infinity bottle. Fundamentally, all this is a mix of different whiskies that I've put in myself. These can be short projects, these can be long-term projects, this can be something that you just kind of knock up one day and see how long you can keep it going for. I've had this now for a good few months. I think it's about 5 or 6 months. This is one that I plan to carry for a very long time. Like I said, I've had it 6 months. I'd be quite happy if I kept this for the rest of my life. The whole idea being, whenever I get a whiskey that I think is going to go well in here, I'll add it. This is like a library of all the whiskies I've ever drunk. And it's an opportunity for me as a whiskey drinker to develop my palate, experiment with adding different whiskies to this and see what it does. But fundamentally, all I'm doing is every time I get a whiskey that I like or is interesting, and I've always got it in the back of my head, I'll add it to this bottle. And over time, this is going to grow and it's going to develop and it's going to change. And every time I drink it, it's going to be different. I'm going to drink some right now. So what I've done here is I've actually kept on the back, I've got a label, and I'm just noting down everything that I've put in here. So at the moment we've got some Bunner 12, we've got some Sherry Bomb, which is one of Atom Brand's kind of heavily sherried expressions. The Penderin Portwood, Penderin Portwood I should say. It's got some Glenallachie 12 and some Glenallachie 15. It's got some Tianinic, which is one of the Good Spirits co-bottlings that I've got. It's got a little bit of Auchentoshan 3-wood in there, and it's got some Jura the Lock. And it smells bloody fantastic. Really nice fruity raisin note. There's loads of heavily sherried whiskies in here, so you've got loads of that sherry coming forward. Nutty, spicy, fruity, stone fruits, plum, apple on the palate. Incredibly rich, incredibly juicy. Bit of chocolate, more of those dark fruits coming through as well. Bit of cherry. Really sweet and succulent and delicious. A little bit of a smokiness going on as well on the tail end of that. There is no peated whiskey in here. And I don't know where that smokiness is coming. Right now I've got really nice like chocolate covered dark cherry flavour coming through. This is delicious. But you know, I feel like I've worked quite hard on this one. Every time I get a whiskey, I've kind of got it in the back of my head. I'm thinking, is this going to contribute? And whenever I drink this now, you see, this is very nice. This could benefit, though, I think, from something a little bit lighter, something a little bit fresher that's gonna lift it out of that really dark, rich space. Because while this is delicious right now, it might not be what I want in the future. So let's have a look. I dug this off the shelf. We've got a 43% Glenkinchie, 12-year-old. From what I remember, incredibly light. Or very light. Apples, pears. Smells fantastic. So, again, you can measure this. You can be precise. With this, I just kind of go by feel. See what I think I can get away with. How much is that? Not a clue. I'm going to leave that for a little while. I'm not going to go straight in and drink it. My experience has been, if you drink it immediately afterwards, I don't know, the flavours have not married. It tastes like a whiskey with that whiskey in it. So leaving it to sit for a couple of weeks or so, let the flavours marry, let it mellow out a bit, then go back and taste it and see if what you've added has been interesting. Oh, I need to write down actually the Glenkinchie 12 on the back of that. This right here is a whiskey which no one else has got. It's a whiskey that no one will ever be able to truly recreate, and it's a whiskey that will never ever be the same. This is just a project. This is something for you to experiment with, something for you to develop your skills and, you know, your palate as a whiskey drinker. And as I say, it's just fun. So there's kind of two approaches that you can take when developing your infinity bottle. The any old shit and give a shit. The any old shit approach is literally just pour in any whiskey, absolutely anything. Just whatever you've got, whatever you see, whatever you try, put it in and just see what happens. The give a shit approach is a little bit more calculated, a little bit more precise. You kind of taste and you work with what you've got to develop something better. You're more picky about the whiskies you put into it, and you actually try to make something that's a little bit better than just whatever you've got. I guess for you have to decide whether you want something reproducible, whether you want something controlled, whether you want something that you can kind of be proud of and say, I've crafted this, or whether it's something you're a little bit more into the magic and the romance of the idea of just literally chucking any old shit into a bottle and just seeing what happens. Both approaches are completely valid. You can even do one of each. I've kind of taken the give a shit approach. This in here is all unpeated single malts. I've not gone with any, I'm just going to double check that. Yeah, I've definitely not gone with any blends in this. These are all unpeated, all single malts, but aside from that, it's all fair game. I tried one of these in the past where I added a little bit of peat to it and it just kind of ruined the whole thing, and ended up pouring tons more whiskey into it to counter the peat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an unpeated infinity bottle and I'm going to have a peated infinity bottle. So here are my top tips for making your own infinity bottle. I've already mentioned it, but try and keep your styles separate. A little bit of peat goes an awfully long way. So if you're doing, a single malt scotch, maybe do a peated and an unpeated bottle, like what I'm doing here. If you want to do bourbon, if you want to do single grains, that's up to you. I'm probably going to keep grains out of this one. I don't actually have a lot of grains on the shelf, so I'm probably not going to invest a huge amount of time and effort into making a grains infinity bottle, but that's up to you to experiment. Personally, my advice would be keep your styles separate. My second tip really would be don't add any old shit. You can take the throw caution to the wind approach and put anything in, but it only takes a little bit of something awful to throw the whole bottle, and it can take quite a bit of time to kind of recover it and get it back to where it was into something that's really, really delicious that you actually enjoy drinking, which is kind of the main thing here, right? You want it to be enjoyable, so be picky, don't literally throw any old shit in. Kind of following on from that, my third tip would be don't add anything that's too out there. I would not suggest popping Laphroaig in any infinity bottle. I always refer to it as the Laphroaiginess, but if you pop even a tiny bit of Laphroaig in there, it's just going to taste of Laphroaig. I found this out the hard way in the past. It's just not worth it. Laphroaig is a fantastic whiskey, but it's best enjoyed as a Laphroaig. My fourth tip, taste as you go. Before you want to add anything to it, have a taste. What does it need? What could it benefit from? Where is it now? If you kind of think of your whiskey on a kind of flavour chart, as it were, with kind of your dark flavours and your light flavours and your sweetness and your dryness, where does your whiskey currently sit on that chart? Where do you want it to go? There is theoretically no end. There is no completing the infinity bottle. It is just that. It is an infinity bottle. My fifth tip is write down what goes in. This is an ongoing experiment which is never going to be the same again. It's so interesting to look back through the list of whiskies that have gone in. Some of them you may even be able to pick out. Some of them will be completely lost. And my sixth and final tip is store it properly. You want a good quality, tight fitting cork. With a lot of bottles, you're kind of going to keep them and you're going to drink them, and eventually you're going to empty that bottle. But this is ongoing. I know a lot of people argue that dark bottles are better for whiskey because they protect it from the damage that UV and sunlight can do. I don't buy into that too much. What I would suggest is, though, keep it somewhere. Treat it as you would your most expensive whiskey. Keep it somewhere cool and dark with a good fitting cork. Now, it might also be worth keeping an eye on your cork. Synthetic corks may work better. This could be going for a long time. The last thing you want is to have to empty this whole thing out and filter it. You've also obviously always got the risk of oxidization. The more that you turn this, the more you shake it, the more you get air into it, you're going to affect that flavour, and it's going to deteriorate maybe slightly faster than others. So when you're shaking it up, just be gentle. Give it a gentle roll around. Don't go frothing it up and shaking it. But most importantly, just have fun with it. That's what it's supposed to be. Experiment. Get some friends involved to make their own and try out each other's bottlings. See if you can steer your whiskey in the direction that you want it to go in. Pick flavours and work towards them. This is an opportunity for you to explore, whiskey and train your palate. Right now, this one is in a really, really, really good place, but I don't want it to stay there. That's not what this is about for me. This is about experimenting and see where I can take it. But anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you all very much for watching. If you've liked this video, please do drop a like down below, and if you'd like to support the channel, please do consider subscribing. Let me know down in the comments if you're running an infinity bottle. How is it right now? What's gone into it? What are you planning to add to it in the future? Or if you're planning to start one from watching this video. And on that note, Slàinte mhath.